If you weren't here last week, you missed part 1 of the prodigal son parable. And I hope that you had a chance to go on the website. If not, you'll very much want to hear that sermon. I actually went back and listened to the sermon again because last week I walked away from this holy place and I said to someone, I think God preached, and I just showed up. It was just one of those sermons. And so this is a 2-part sermon that's finishing out our Shining for Jesus series. And so today we're talking about the response of the Father. So last week there was a powerful picture on the front of your bulletin, and it was a picture of the Father's face in pain, as perhaps he was trying to plead with his son, please don't go, please don't go. And then maybe just releasing him and realizing that some of us have to learn the hard way. And you know what I'm talking about, right? I know we have some temperaments in here that as you're growing up, your parents said, no, that's not a good idea, don't do that. And you had to learn the hard way. You had to just say, you know what, I'm just going to have to make a mistake, because until I make a mistake, and I learn from it myself, it's really not a learned lesson. So this week, look at your bulletin. This is an incredible, again, a powerful picture of the Father on the run. On the run. A Father who has a very, very focused face. He wants to get to his sons. Not just one son, perhaps both of them. So let me just recap and share with you the story, the parable of the prodigal son. And then we'll just do a quick summary of what happened last week and some of the learning points that we took. And then we'll get into this shocking response, because this parable, when we unpack it, isn't the traditional parable as we have learned it. It's a little different. And the response of the Father is also different than what perhaps we have learned the response is. And so the story comes from Luke chapter 15, and it begins, Jesus says this. A certain man had 2 sons. 2 sons. Now the younger of the son said, Father, give me my share of the estate. And the father divided the estate between the elder and the younger son. Now, not long after, the younger son gathered up his inheritance, and he left, and he went to a far-off region, and there he squandered all that he had. And after a time, there was a famine. And he had gone through all of his earnings, and so he hired himself out to be a hired hand. As a citizen in that country, and the landowner sent him out in fields to feed the pigs. And this young, broken, penniless man yearned to eat the pods that the pigs were eating, but no one gave him anything. And at such a time, the younger son came to his senses, and he said, in my father's house, there's food, I have a roof, there's security. I will go back. I will return and I will go home and I will say to my father, Father, I have sinned against you and against God. I am not worthy to be called your son. So, Father, would you hire me on as one of your hired hands? He went home. And while he was still a long ways away, his father saw him. And his father ran towards him and embraced him and hugged him. And then called to his servants and said, come, bring the robe and place on him. Bring my signet ring and put it on his finger and put sandals on his feet. Come, kill the fatted calf. Let us have a feast. Let us have a party. Let us celebrate. For my son, who was lost, is now home. He was once lost, and he's found. Oh, son was in the fields working, following the rules, working. And he came to his home and he heard celebration, he heard music, and he said to his servant, "What is this that I hear?" And the servant said, "Your father is throwing a party because your little brother has come home. He was once lost and now he's found." And the elder son said, "What?" He stood outside the house and he would not go in. And his father came down and ran towards his elder son. And his elder son looked accusingly at his father and said, "What is this? I have been slaving for you all these years. You've never had a party for me. You've never killed the fatted calf for me." And the father said, "Son, all that I have is yours. But we must rejoice, for your little brother was lost, and now he's found. He has come home. So come home with us." And the parable ends. We never get to know if that older son came in and joined the feast, joined the party. We never really understand if he got it, if he understood. And so what we call this parable, the prodigal son, it's really the parable of the two lost sons. I said last week that prodigal means extravagant spending. Well, this week, do you know who the prodigal really is? It's the father. It's the father. He spent it all. Last week you learned that actually it was the father who really paid the cost. The younger son said, "Father, give me my inheritance," which meant he had to sell. He had to literally sell his land. He had to take 2/3 of the land and put it in his older son's name in order for this transaction to be legal. He had to take 1/3 of his land and he had to sell it so that he could give his son his inheritance. He owns nothing now. I don't know how old this father was, but he couldn't have been very old. So now he's going to live the rest of his life penniless and beholden to the elder and the younger son. But the younger son decides that he just wants to go and live life the way he wants to live it. And so Jesus is really talking to a specific group that had gathered. Remember I said 2 groups gathered there? One was the tax collectors and the sinners. They were people who really were kind of the younger son. They weren't obeying the rules and the ritual cleansing. They were just saying, "You know what? I just want to live my life. Just leave me alone. I don't like that church thing, and I really don't like the Jesus thing. Just let me be my own God." And Jesus was attracting these people because even when you're living your own life, even when you're doing your own thing, even when you shut out God, do you know that you always have the seed of God in you, and you will always be missing something until you fill it with God? Augustine said, "My soul is restless until it rests in thee, O God." And so when I meet people out in the world and out, amongst the community, and I talk to them and they find out I'm a pastor and they're like, "Yeah, I don't do that thing called church." I understand that there's a yearning in them. I speak to that yearning. I don't judge them, but I speak to that yearning. There's someone in our church that goes to Dunkin' Donuts with intentionality. Because this person in Dunkin' Donuts is just someone that she wants to speak to. She wants to love. She wants to influence for Christ. It's wonderful when we're able to see the outside world and know that not all of them are antagonistic. In fact, not any of them are antagonistic. We have the God seed within each of us. And if we just speak love, if we speak compassion, if we speak caring, it might take a week, it might take a month, it might take years. But our love is going to make a difference. And at some point, someone's going to come to their senses and say, "Will you tell me about the God? Will you tell me what makes you so different?" Now, the concerning thing about this parable is Jesus was attracting the tax collectors and the sinners. They were attracted to his message. But he wasn't really aiming this parable to them. He was aiming it to the Pharisees. He was aiming it to people who were following the rules. He was aiming it to people that, in contemporary, modern-day version, they came to church. They sat on committees. They did the do. They were Christians. But their heart was far from God. Because they thought that just by following the rules, that was enough. Like they could even kind of buy their ticket to heaven. It was an insurance policy. Well, I'm going to do this because just in case, it'll get me there. But this elder son didn't have any more of a relationship with his father than the younger son. And so last week, we had to ask ourselves, how are we like the elder son? Do we have that deep, abiding relationship, or do we just pray and read our Bibles and come to church and do all the doing things because that's what good Christians are supposed to do? And what Jesus is telling us is, whoa, wait a minute. You have to deal with the response of the Father. So here's the response. There's a difference between religion and the way of Jesus. And this parable is just so incredibly appropriate for today's age. Because what Jesus is saying through the response of the Father is, do you know what happens when you come home? Do you know what happens when you come to your senses? Is the Father will not just greet you. We would like some time to come up to the altar and say, Father, I have sinned, just like the younger brother, and so here's my plan. I'm going to come back to you. I'm going to go to church every Sunday. I'm going to get my Bible out every day. I'm going to read it. I'm going to pray. And I'm going to do good. I'm going to have a secret act of kindness every day. So that's my plan, Lord. I'm glad you blessed it. Amen. But this parable is incredibly shocking. The younger son comes, and I imagine that's kind of what he's saying, in our contemporary version. So here's my plan, God. I think I got everything straightened out, so just forgive me, bless me, and we're good. And before he can even get that out, he starts out with that, that apology, that petition, that kind of like, oh, here it is, Lord. Here's my confession. It's necessary. It's necessary. Every night when I go to bed, I do Lectio Divina, which means I kind of stand before the Lord and I say, Lord, would you just recall my day? Would you recall the things of my day that blessed you? And would you recall the things of my day that hurt your heart? And Lord, I would just offer them up. If I was able to bless you, then I just thank you, Lord, because it's the Spirit within me that allows me to do that. If I hurt you, Lord, then would you just bring it to my heart so I can just lift it up to you and I can ask for forgiveness so tomorrow I might know maybe a little better not to do it, not to repeat the same thing, Lord, because I don't want to hurt you. I'm in a relationship with you. And so when this elder brother, he does this beautiful part of, Father, I have sinned against you and against God. And then he starts, and so the Father just doesn't let him get there. I can just see the Father just interrupting him. Like there's no white space in there. He says, Father, I've sinned against you. Now, we heard his plan when he was in the far-off region, right? That's how we get the story of what he's going to tell his father. I really want to just be a hard hand. I know I can't be your son anymore. But when he gets there and he starts to kind of unpack his plan and say, Father, I sinned against you, the Father goes, yes, you're home. And he's probably going, well, I did. And the Father's like, no, here's my plan. Here's my plan. Can you allow the Spirit to speak in your life? Because I don't know how many times that I have come back when I need to confess an attitude, and I've come back to the Lord and I said, Lord, I've sinned against you. Here's my plan. I think I have it worked out. Am I the only one in the room who feels that way? I mean, we all it's our natural human instinct to say, here's my plan. And if we don't say it to God, we certainly say it to ourselves. I am going to get back to that Bible reading. I know what I need is I need a deeper prayer life. And I know that I need to get out in the community and I need to start serving. That's really what I need. And Jesus says, you don't get to do that. You don't get to do that. That's called self-salvation. It's a very subtle sign That even when you confess that what you're saying to God is, I got this. I know I did wrong, but I got this. The story that Jesus is telling us is, you don't get to say you got this, because the fact is, you don't got nothing. You just don't got it at all. You don't have the ability to not sin tomorrow. You can sin 7 times and 70 times and 490 times and on and on and on. You don't have the ability not to sin. Can I get an amen for that? Yeah. We just don't. What Jesus is saying is, you come home, leave your plan outside the door. Because I've got a bigger plan. I've got a bigger plan. And it's shocking. It's shocking. I was raised Catholic. I was raised with an understanding of a God who was judgmental. When I did something wrong, I was going to be punished. And if I didn't get punished, I somehow escaped it, and it was going to catch up to me at some point in my life. And so when I understand the gist of this parable, I want a plan. And when Jesus speaks time and time into my life is, Jan, you don't get to tell me your plan. You get to work out my plan. And the most shocking thing of my plan is not a finger-pointing God. It is a God of acceptance and love. Now go figure that. How is it that the good news that we are supposed to proclaim and that we're supposed to live is the gospel of love? I mean, we're going to push up against that. At some point, aren't you and I going to say, yes, but God, they really need the plan. They really need to know that what they're doing is wrong. They really need to know that they've strayed. They really need some rules and some boundaries and some guidelines. And God says, you don't get to have a plan for yourself or have a plan for anyone else. What I'm offering you is a relationship of love. That's my plan. That's my plan. I mean, it's so simple. And we as a church are more Pharisaic than we want to understand. We make it hard. We make it hard. And so what we say is, well, to be a follower of Christ, this is what you need to do. And Jesus is saying, no, to be a follower of Christ, this is what you need to be. You need to be mine. You need to be my son and my daughter, and you need to be loved by me, loved up until you are full. That's my plan. And so last week I told you that if you were reading your Bible because you felt you should, it was rather shocking to some of you. I said, put your Bible away. And if you were praying in the morning and praying at night because you thought that was what a good follower of Jesus does, then stop praying. And if you were doing kindnesses to people because you thought that, well, that was going to earn you something, then just stop. Just stop. Because what Jesus is calling us to is a relationship of love. So many of you have been married for quite some time. What if you would just serve your husband and serve your wife? What if you made sure there was food on the table and there was a paycheck to come home and there was a house to live in and there was a pension and a 401k and everything was cared for, but you never sat down and talked. You never sat down and told each other what hurts your heart, what scares you, what you look forward to, what haunts you at 4 o'clock in the morning. What if you never shared those things? Then there would be no relationship. And let me tell you, we've got a bunch of marriages in this world that are just serving. They're going through the motions. And they wonder why they're dry. They wonder where there's no joy in their marriage or their relationship. Because they're putting in the time and not the relationship. They're not sitting down and saying, so what's going on in your heart? How is it with your soul? Men, ask your wives. Go home and ask your wives, how is it with your soul, honey? Wives, ask your husband, sweetheart, how is it with your soul? Because they're questions that we don't ask, and they draw us into this thing called relationship. The Pharisees were trying to make Jesus so incredibly difficult. And it's why the sinners and the tax collectors loved to be with Jesus, because he made it easy. He said, fall in love because I love you. Let's have a friendship. Let's have a relationship together. Let's do that. And then all the other stuff. You'll read your Bible because you'll want to know more about Jesus. It'll be like reading a love letter that you'll want to know, what don't I know yet about Jesus? How can the Holy Spirit work in my life that I might see God at work, that maybe I could just be ignoring everything? But the Pharisees had hearts of stone. Jesus says, I want to give you a heart of flesh. I want to give you a heart of flesh. Now notice that the Father's response of running and saying, here I am, I want to love you, is equal from the younger son, and it's also equal to the older son. The older son wouldn't come in the house. How different is that? You know, the younger son comes to the stoop and says, I'm not worthy to even enter this house. There's a hired hand shack over here and I'll live in it. But the elder son won't even enter the house for his own reasons. He's indignant. And the father comes out and he runs to his elder son and he says, please come in. His response is the same, whether you're a rule follower or whether you're a flagrant sinner. His response is the same because it's a response of love. Jesus doesn't care. He doesn't care. I just talked to someone and they were ruminating about all the stuff that they wished that they would have done differently in their life. And I looked at him with a smile and I said, but it doesn't matter, does it? It's done. It's over and you are redeemed. God doesn't remember those things, so why are we remembering them? And so he stands outside and the Father says, please, everything I have is yours. See, Jesus paid the ultimate price. And can I just tell you that anytime you forgive someone, you're the one paying the price? Do you know that, right? When every time that you decide to forgive someone, there's a price to be paid. But the person who's being forgiven is not paying the price. You are. You are. That's the price of forgiveness, and it's beautiful. So if someone insults me, and I decide to forgive them, what am I doing? I am taking that, and I'm saying, it doesn't matter. I'm going to look at you as though it didn't happen. That's the price to me. I have to do something. If someone kills your child, and you decide to forgive, you're paying the price. The person who's forgiven has no price to be paid. That's forgiveness. But there is a price. And in this story, the Father pays the price. He pays it in finances. He pays it in emotions. He pays it in his pays it in his relationship to his sons and to the community. His name is out there in the community, and he's willing to be humbled because his elder son thinks that, well, I'm not even going to call you father anymore, and his younger son wants him dead. He's walking around the community, and the community's looking at him going, why do you let people treat you that way? I'd ask them both. The Father says, no. You have to understand. I'm a Father. God will love. God will pay the price to love and to forgive. So, 1 Corinthians 5:17 says this, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. Old things have passed away. All things are new. And Jesus is saying, I can imagine the crowd just hearing this story and saying, gosh, I wish I had the perfect older brother, because I know that this older brother isn't really who I want. And Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. He who comes to me, he receives that relationship of love. So there's 3 paths along the way that we have to remember. One, in a relationship, is you need to focus. You need to focus. You need to know the difference between efficient and effective. There's a difference. I long to be effective, but I tend to worry about being efficient. And so Steve Jobs was hired back again in Apple in 1997 after being fired in 1984. And the company was just a mess. They were trying to have so many things out there because they just thought, oh, we'll have a little bit of this, a little bit of this, and everything will be out there for the consumers. And he went up to a whiteboard, and he had 4 blocks. And he said, one block was pro, one block was consumer, one block was desktop, and the other block was mobile. And he said, here's how this company needs to be run. I want you to make one device for each one of those blocks. That's it. That's it. And it worked. Apple's a $500 billion industry because Steve Jobs knew that you need to be focused. You need to have the main thing, the main thing. The next thing is you need to have intentionality. You need to have intentionality. Look at the relationships that you have. Look at your friendships, girls. Guys, look at your friendships. Look at your marriages. Look at the relationships you have at work. Are you intentional about the people that are important to you? Are you intentional? Are you really looking and saying, this is what's important to me, and so this gets first of my time? Kevin and I learned a very expensive lesson a couple of weeks ago. We were going to a wedding, and I think I told one of the services that as we went to the wedding, our checker oil light came on. It was kind of like, it's time to change your oil. And so Kevin said, when I get back Monday, I'm going to have to get the oil changed. And I said, okay. So we went to State College, and we went there Friday, and then Saturday night we came home, and he went to pass somebody, and the car just started to slip a gear. And then it started to make this funny voice. We tried to decide if maybe we should stop and check it, but we weren't sure what we were checking, and we really didn't think it was about the oil. It really sounded like it was a belt. And so we kept going. We thought maybe we could stop at Sheetz, but who knows anything about cars and Sheetz? And you know about hot dogs. That's it. Gas and hot dogs. And so we pushed on. And I prayed without ceasing. I was like, Lord, just please get us home because it's Saturday night and I've got to preach tomorrow. When we pulled in the parking lot, the car just died. After church on Sunday, we asked Dave to go out and check our car. And he just thought, well, we'll start with the oil since the light came on. And we had run the car out of oil. Out of oil. Dipstick. Not no oil. And we were heartbroken. We felt stupid. We felt broken. We were ashamed that 2 grown adults don't know how to take care of a car. How simple. We tried to rationalize and say, well, we thought it was it's time to change the oil, which he said, I'll get the oil changed as soon as I get home, but we didn't think it was right away. Well, none of us know when the right away is going to hit us. And so a couple days later, we sat down, and after we were done, just with all the shame and the blame and all that stuff, we said, you know what we realize is that both of us are so busy in ministry that we're not caring for some of the things that we need to be caring for. Have you felt that spoken in your life? Have you gotten so busy in stuff that you're not caring, you're not intentional, or caring for the things that really need to be cared for life? In that instance, it was our car. The next day, I took mine and I got an oil change. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to be intentional. But more than that, we understood this deep truth that if I'm not intentional with my relationship with God, if I don't spend time and allow the love of God to be in my heart, you know what? I'm not going to look very loving. If I don't allow the love of God in my heart, I'm not going to be able to do loving things. Because it's all coming from relationship. And the third is lordship. That means Jesus only. Now that means that we have to reconfigure our lives a little bit. We have to say that Jesus is going to be Lord of my life. And only Jesus is going to be Lord of my life, which means some things are going to have to come off of the top shelf. We kind of have a hierarchy of what's important to our lives. And the question is, for my life and for yours, does Jesus get taught only? Is it Jesus, Lord, only? Because I think sometimes we give lordship away. We give it away. And Jesus says, if you're going to be in a relationship with me, it's got to have top only. Because I can't mold you or shape you. I can't use you unless you give all of you to me. And I promise you that I will love you into this new creation. I will love you into what your shape and your purpose is. So here's some test questions. Are you giving away your lordship? Or perhaps when a friend attitude just ruins ours. And we're giving away our lordship because we're not sitting in the love of Jesus. When a friend who might reject you or say something, when it just kind of dismantles you, whose love are you searching for? It's a good test. You're not in the love relationship with Jesus. Or perhaps the driver cuts us off on the freeway and we decide we're going to tailgate him for a mile just to make sure he gets the word that he did something wrong. Yeah. We laugh about those things, but we're giving away our lordship because Jesus is not at the very center. We're not saying, Jesus, when have I done this very same thing? And Jesus, how can I pray for this person? Because there might be a reason that they cut me off. And if not, then let me bless them anyways. Or perhaps we disagree with our boss, and we leave that office, and we grumble, and we gossip, and we complain. We're giving away our lordship. We're giving away. Because Jesus no longer is in the center. There's a beautiful hymn, Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing. And this is what it says. Prone to wander, Lord, I feel it.